Now, when the program opens up, the first thing you have to do is open your file. You can create a new one, or you can open a recent one. Just click open here. You can open one from your computer, choose a file, click open, which we are not doing, or you can make a new one. And this is, you can name it. So you can say test if you have no imagination. You can decide exactly, you have pixels, inches, centimeters, millimeters. You can decide exactly what size you want in either of these size measurements. And if you want exact pixel sizes, then you can say like 5,000 by, you just mark this, delete, and go 5,000. You also get to decide your resolution, which you also can change and put in something else. Or you can take a custom size, which is pretty comfortable. A4 is available, also very popular. Letter is a good one. And it goes for a standard 600 pixels per inch resolution. I usually would lower that to 300 because it makes for a lighter file, and 300 is enough if you want to print. So that's basically a good size that has quality in it. The higher the resolution, the higher quality file, the more you can enlarge it, the more you can use it for bigger posters and things like that. So you have to know what you're looking to make. The choice you also have to make here is, do you want a white back or a transparent back? I would recommend transparent because you can always put in a layer and fill it with white and then get rid of it. If you pick a white layer, in this program, it's a little bit difficult to get rid of it. So if you want then to make something like a logo or a t-shirt design, you will definitely want the transparent layer. Then event recording, the standard is that it is on. This is something that records everything that you do while you're working, so every brush stroke, and then you can use that as something you want to post or look back on. I usually turn that off. If you turn it off, you do not have the possibility to turn it back on during your work. So that's a decision you make in the beginning. So we have all these things. We click create, and here we have our document. Now, just for the sake of showing something, we are going to make a few more. So when you open a document, you will notice this big thing, and it's called hand control, and this will allow you to tilt your canvas left and right, to flip it completely left, right 90 degrees, upside down, or rectify it back to original position. It also, here you can flip it quickly and flip it back. These things are very useful when you're drawing, so it's not silly to actually have such a control. However, I do think it picks up a lot of space. It just takes up space. So if you think it takes up too much space, you click here, you get rid of it, you click again, and it comes back. So if you have an Innovator tablet, which is why I, for example, got this program, because you get it for free when you buy an Innovator tablet, Innovator or any XP Pen tablet, you're going to have some control. So even if you get rid of this, for example, because you don't want it to pick up space, if you click the space bar and then move around the document, you're going to have the same function as if you have this and you do this. So also, same thing, the size, the resizing. If you do the ring on your tablet, you resize it without using this function. So it becomes less important. Same thing goes for the shortcut controls. Now, shortcut controls is this little, move into the middle, this little thing. The shortcut controls are, well, let's show it on something else. We're gonna take a line and we're just gonna paint. And this is undo, this is redo. This is showing you you're working with your pencil right now. So if you click this, it's going to give you eraser. So right away you can erase this and then click again, it'll give you pencil. And clear everything, so it clears it. And then there is this, which is better shown on this. It will show you your drawing, your painting, without all of the stuff on the sides. You click it again, and you're back to your controls. Now, this is actually very useful. This is something that does not exist in Photoshop. I like to keep it up on the right-hand corner. and it really does help to change the brush quickly. Again, you can change the brush on and off just clicking your pen on your Innovator tablet or your XP Pen tablet or Wacom tablet or whatever you have. So the basic tool is the brushes. Now also what's important to know is all of these panels, or rather I should call them windows, you can move them around by just holding them here at the top bar. You just click this and drag and you can put it anywhere you want. So if you want a different order, have this here or something like that, you can do that however you want. And if you want to get rid of a panel, for example, you're not going to use it, then you click on the hamburger bars here and you say close. If you're missing a panel and you want that, then you go up here under window and you look for this, for example, the one I got rid of, reference, you click that and you have it back, and then it's check marked up there. When you have them all the way you like them, then you can click on the left down here on the lock symbol, and that'll stop me from, so if I'm drawing, for example, I won't by accident move panels around. Not to say that I should have the brushes panel in the middle of the drawing. So as far as brushes go, you have basically three windows. The brushes window or panel, the tool option, which controls the qualities of the brush, the size and everything, and the brush size window, which is only a possibility to quickly change from one size of the brush to another and then get back to the same size quickly. So this is only necessary, really practical for the big sizes, and normally you can just use this panel that you have where you decide the brush size, and don't be scared if you think that it's only going to go to 100, because you can keep going to the right all the way up to 2000 pixels, which makes a huge brush. So you just have to keep pulling to the right to get the bigger sizes. Now, depending on what brush you choose from the brushes panel, you're going to get different options. So if you go into the watercolors, and there is a whole section of watercolors down here, you can pick a color and then you're going to have a lot more choices here. So not only opacity, brush size and stabilizing level, but also mix with base color, mix with foreground color. So let's say we have a yellow and we say mix with foreground color is strong, but mix with base color is weak. So you do like this, it's very yellow. Now if you change that around and you lower this, then you'll see how it grabs on to the red and makes a color that is different. So these are things that come up immediately in the tool options depending on which brush you choose. Now, if you want more even details on how a brush should work, let's take the sand eraser as an example. So the sand eraser would erase like this in the settings I have, but each of these brushes has a little cogwheel, and you can go into the cogwheel, and here you're gonna have the different, also the opacity, the angle, then you can change which direction if it's like a pattern brush. And here under diffuse, we can see, for example, we can change this brush by lowering the amount. So this will be very delicate, you can almost see nothing. And changing the size of the dots, changing the scatter range, which is how wide the line will be. So we can make a very wide line with very large dots like this, or we can make lots of dots but a small size. My computer is going nuts here. And then we'll have this kind of erasing. Also make your own brush by going in here, clicking new brush. I'm not going to show how to do that because it's a more complicated process, but what's most interesting is that you can actually turn every single brush into an eraser. So you can pick for example, let's say leaf, a pattern brush, and then you go up here on the left in the colors panel and you click that little checkered area, and that will make your brush an eraser. So I am now erasing the layer, the dark blue layer, which is here, and I am seeing the colors from the layer underneath. So that is the way you can turn every single one of these brushes. It would seem when you open this that, oh, there are only 4 erasers, because there is the soft hard eraser, sand eraser, and kneaded eraser, which is very much like the soft one. But here you can actually take every single brush that you have and turn that into an eraser, which is actually a very, very, very useful thing when it comes to art. And now just for some examples of different brushes in Opencanvas. There are so many brushes, so I can't really show very many of them here, but and especially with the pattern brushes like leaf brushes or grass brushes, there are so many possibilities on how much they scatter, on how many colors they paint with. They can paint with several colors around the color you chose. That's what you change with hue. And just the opacity, the thickness, everything you can arrange everything, the angle. So if you want really to change a brush, you go into the cogwheel for each brush and you can change that. Here I'm just using the basic settings that are there from the beginning. Next important thing is understanding layers. So when you open a new file, a new document, you're going to see just this layer, this transparent layer, if you chose transparent. If you didn't choose transparent, it's white, and you actually can't get rid of the white. So you make more layers by clicking this. And the best thing is to start by taking the bottom layer, you take the paint bucket tool, you choose your color as white, you click, and this way you have a white background. So now when you draw on a layer that is on top of this, it will be like you have a white background. And as long as you don't remove the bottom layer or you don't make it invisible, this will always look like a white background. Now, if you don't want some layer to be harmed because you've done a drawing and you don't want that piece to be accidentally destroyed, then you click this lock, and that'll lock the layer so nothing can happen to it. So it can't be removed, it can't be dragged, it can't be drawn on. And whenever I'm on it, you can see it's like a little forbidding sign here. So this shows you the little pencil, which layer is selected. So that's the layer I'm drawing on. These layers can be moved around. So for example, now I want the bottom to be red. You can make each of them visible or invisible, and as you do that, the different layers come out and the different levels. If you're on one and you, for example, take an eraser and you erase, these are all filled layers. This one is the one I locked, so we're not going to have that. If you're on a layer and you erase, then you're going to see the layer underneath. Then you go one more layer and you erase, and you're going to see the layer that's underneath that. And if you erase the last layer, which is then what you're going to see is the transparent background. So that is how layers work. You can also make groups. So you make a group and you can either have the group selected and then click another layer, and that'll be a layer inside the group. Or you can make many of those, or you can take a layer and move it inside the group by dragging it up and letting it go. And then you can see by the space here, it's a little bit moved to the right, that those are all layers that are inside the group. You want to get them out of the group, you drag them outside of the group, and that's the way that works. Every layer has a little cogwheel. When it's selected, you can see the little cogwheel, so you can click that cogwheel, and here you can rename the layer, which is a good idea. So this is clearly an abstract house. And you can rename the layer. You can say which mode. Now, mode is a very complicated thing that I will show you in a minute. Say OK for that. And right away, easily, you can change the opacity of the layer. So for example, this layer that is filled with blue, if I lower the opacity on this layer, you can see how it's going to disappear. And that way, everything you've drawn on this layer will equally become less opaque. So you can see how the bottom layers are not affected, but this one is. This is linking layers. So if you do this, they'll all be linked for moving, for example. So if they're all linked, and I do like this, then the move tool will move all of them. So that's one thing. If I unlink them, then I only have this one selected. I have my move tool on, and that way the rest of them stay in place. and I can move this around. You can also free transform a layer, so that's Control T or this button down here on the shortcuts, and that will allow you to move the layer like this. You also have the edges here, so you can use that to shrink it, move it around, make it bigger, so it'll be possible to do whatever you want with that. And here are different controls. You can also twist it around on this one, or decide exactly which scales. You can flip it. So this is how you can work just the one layer. And as I said, if you want to do all of the layers together, then first, let's say cancel on this. First, you would have to link them to do it to all of them. You unlink, then each one is separate. These other controls on the layers panel have to do with masks. So this is layer mask. I think this is layer mask, and this is clipping mask, and this is layer mask. And this is for getting rid of layers. So if you click this and trash, then that disappears. Now, there are also different coloring modes here. And to show that, this would probably be a better example. And I'm going to use the selection tool to just make a selection here. So when I've made it, I'm going to add another layer. And this selection will work on every layer. So this, no matter which layer you are on, you can only draw within the selection once you've made it. Okay, now we have all these colors, and they're on a separate layer, and they're over on top of this image. So if we take this layer, and then you can see what's going to happen when you go through the different coloring modes. This is how the different colors will affect your image. Multiply is this one is what is usually used to make shade. So you take a color that will fit, and these are the different, I'm not even going to go into them. You can just see how they affect an image and what you can do with it. Vivid light, and these are usually also for making sunshine. So when sunshine is shining on an object, you want it to get a little lighter there. I will make separate videos on how you actually use those in creating a painting. So those are your coloring modes. There is the selection tool, which you can choose up here on the left, and in the tool option you will see the kinds of selections you can make. So you can make square selections, you can make circular selections, you can make freeform shapes, then you have to double click to end them. So on my pencil, that's a special button. And then freeform drawing selection, so you just draw it with your hand. Depending on which one of these you choose, you can add, subtract, or what is this one called? Overlap. So overlap is if I have drawn a selection, I draw another one, and the only part that remains is the one that was covered by both, which is rarely used. The new selection, every time I make a new one, the new one exists, the old one disappears. And then there is the add to selection, so I make something extra, and then they become one. I add more, they become one. Don't start adding by putting your cursor on the inside of the old selection, because that will move it. So you have to start outside. Even if you're going to be close, you have to start like this and do it like that. This is a bit different. This thing is remove, so also don't start on the inside, on the outside, and here you can remove the portions that you don't like. Now let's do an example. So we're gonna deselect. We go up here and you click deselect, or Control D to get rid of your selection. You make a circle and hold Shift to make it a perfect circle. Do it like this. We raise it up to have it in the right position. And now we can take, for example, the gradient, and here we can choose some kind of nice color that we can like. And say, well, let's say, do we want this kind of gradient? This is okay. So we have this gradient, and here in gradients, you can choose how opaque the gradient will be, linear, radial, circular, and you can even double click on the gradient and then you get all the options and you can change it. I'm not going into those specifically now. So I have my gradient, I do like this, and it'll only fill the inside. Now, if I want to, I can go on selection and say inverse, and that will make the outside selected. And we can see that the little line is here. So now the selection is everything except the circle. So now I can go on another layer, and on this layer I can say, well, I'd like a different gradient here. I'd like a, let's say, bluish something but darker, and I can do it here. So the most useful way of using selections is actually when you're drawing. Let's deselect this and make it a selection, a hand selection. So here I'm going to fill in by hand the main, and this has to be on adding the main of the Okay, so now I've filled in the main, and now I can go on another layer and I can pick a color and a brush and make that brush big so it works quickly. And now I can fill in the color of the main without affecting the rest of the image, because I am only working within the selected area. And that is the beauty of the selection. Now this is a selection that only works during the moment that you have it selected. So the moment I deselect it, this is going to disappear. But it doesn't have to be that way, because you can take this selection. I have now the main selected, and for example I can make a group, which is the best way to do this. Hello, group. And this group I can make a few layers inside later on, but I take this group. It's good to rename the group, so you say like mask main. Okay, and then you do this, and that makes a mask that stays. So even if I now deselected it, I can still, everything that is underneath this layer will still function as if it is selected. It will still not let me draw any way outside of that selection, because I have a mask here, and we can see this mask, and you can go into the mask, you can even correct things, and when things haven't been well selected. I'm not going to go into details here. And a final way to use selections is not by selecting with the selection tool, but with the magic wand. Now the magic wand is something that can identify, so the best thing is to be on the layer. Let's get rid of the blocking here. And let's say I want to select this main, and this main is one color, so the magic wand has gotten this part of the main. So if I hold shift, I can add more. I added this part of the main, I added this part of the main, I added this part of the main. So I mean that this is the main outline that I'm getting right now. So, and it'll select the whole line. It'll just see that this was a line that was drawn together. So now I have managed to make an entire selection without working at all, and now I can draw within that selection. So for example, I can take a pencil and I can say, oh, I think that this horse, the mane shouldn't have this dark color as an outline. So instead I will do this. I will make it a pink outline because we're going all the way in pink today. And because the main outline is selected, then I am only drawing on that which is selected without having to worry. So that is another way to use selection. So we have this done. Also, to get rid of it, again, select and deselect, or Control D. So this is our finished drawing. Now, if we have made many horrible mistakes, we can have the magic eraser. The magic eraser works the same way that the magic wand. So it selects, it finds the thing that you're clicking on. So now it got rid of the outline completely here. If I click here, it got rid of the outline of the horse. So it finds the shape that is the entire shape and gets rid of that. So and it's working on the layer that I am on. So for example, if I want to get rid of the white color in the horse, I click on this and it got rid of the entire white color of the horse. So that's the way that the magic eraser works. Another extremely useful selection function is free transform. So free transform is something you can do either with a straight selection, and you can say like this, you make a selection, and free transform is either hidden in here, so you can under layer transform and then all the way down to free transform. But as you can see, it says Control T, and that's your shortcut. So you can either say Control T, or there is a little, on the shortcuts, there is a little icon here, and you can click that icon and that gives you free transform with the free transform window. So here already you can turn the image here, but it's easier to do it really just with the little handles on the sides. Now, what is more valuable than this, we don't want to destroy this, we're going to deselect. What is better than this is when you do a freeform selection. Now I have linked all the layers that have the horse in them. Otherwise I would just have the one layer, so just the outline, just the filling, just the mane. I've linked them all, so now if I do a drawing like this, but I didn't link the background, so I have just the horse. I've drawn the horse like this, and now I do free transform. So it's just this, and here you can take this little inside dot and you can move it to where the head is attached to the body. And now, if you see those lines that allow you to turn, if you do like this, it'll turn the head of the horse at the point where I said for it to do it. Now, of course, it's gonna make some holes here that you'll have to fill if you want to turn it up, but it is an easy way to not completely have to redo a drawing, but just if you just want to turn it a little bit. So that is very, very useful free transform shortcut here. And then one final tool, which is the shape drawing up here. It's just a square, but down in the tool options you get all the different things. And now this is drawing a full shape. So you draw like this, then you can change to a circle, or an ellipse, you can draw an ellipse. If you'd like it to be an even perfect circle, you hold down Shift. Same thing for a square. If you want a perfect square, then you hold down Shift and it'll always keep that square perfect. Shapes are done the same way as the other one before, so you make your free form shape, even like this, and then you double click and that'll draw your shape. And then there is of course free form shapes, which you also just have to get one end to the other for it to fill. Now these are shapes that are full. If you want shapes that are not full, just outlines, then you actually go to brushes, and as I mentioned before, here you have the different forms of shapes. So you can make a line, just a straight line. If you want, then let's make that brush a little thinner. If you want something to be absolutely perfectly straight, again you hold Shift, and that way the line will only go in perfect angles. If you want to draw a curve, for example, you do like this, you pull it, then you let go, and then you just pull your pencil over it left or right until you have the curve you like, and then you click, and that's how it makes your curve. This is an open shape, so you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It doesn't have to close, so you just double click, and this is your open shape. And then of course a square, I'm running out of colors here, a square that you can make, a circle, a perfect circle, and the closed shape. So again, you make the shape like this, and then you double click. This is easier to do with a mouse actually. So these are the shapes you can have. And now if you, for example, take your magic wand tool, you can start selecting these shapes. So you can, if you hold Shift, then you add to the selection. If you click Alt, then you remove from the selection. So I'm holding Shift here, and I'm just selecting all these things like this. And then I can just get rid of this layer completely that I am on, but I still have those selections. So now I can take a pencil, a brush, and free drawing, and I can just go like this And those shapes are all coming back because I've selected them with the magic wand, like this. So that is how you can make shapes. There is also a tool called ruler, and this will give you perspective. So you can have lines, you can have radial lines, circular lines, and every time you have a line like this, if you have a pencil, for example, which I don't think it should be white, you can, when you draw, it will always draw within that line. So that is the idea of having that. And you can adjust this. So you can say, oh, well, I want it to look like the rings around a planet. That's what I want to draw. So then you can take your thing, here, draw. You have to get rid of this, and then you can make it like this. And another one like this. So it'll always, you can adjust how you want to have it. There are different shapes, so there are perspectives in different forms, and each one of these, when you click this, you can adjust it. So you can say, okay, I want this to be here, I want this to be higher, I want this to be lower, and that way you can, and then when you have them all like this, you can draw with your pencil. Just get rid of the thing. And this is view or not view, so to see it or not to see it, but to keep it within the image. And when you have one of these, again, when you draw on it, it will always draw within those lines. So you're going to have perfect perspective lines every time because you're drawing within this shape. And now, how to put text on the image. You click the text tool here, and then you click where you want your text to start. You put in your text like this. You select it, so you're working on that. And here you can change. There are so many fonts to choose from. I think probably almost as many as Photoshop. And let's say this. And each of the fonts, even if they don't basically exist in bold and italic, you can almost always make them bold and italic. So that's, say, Gastromond, like this. And then if you want to change the size, you can do it here by pulling, or you can just select it directly here and delete and write in a size that you like. Kerning will be how far the letters are from each other. So this is moving a little slow. And the leading will not be visible here. This is how far the rows will be apart from each other. So if you have several rows, this will be the distance between them. Choose a color and say OK, and now we have our text. And if you have the text on a separate layer, you can easily move it around even without using the text tool, so you can change the position. And then finally there is cropping, and cropping is simply you take the crop tool and this will draw you a square. So you do like this, you're drawing the square, and when you let go, that's how it will be cropped. And now finally, when you've done your drawing, you're happy with it, you want to save it or export it. And the way to do that is you go up to File, and here you go down to Save As. Save is when you already have a file name. So Save Event is when you're doing the recording of your drawing and you want to save that recording, but I'm not doing those, so just saying Save As. And here you can put in your file name, and the choices you have is an Opencanvas document, a BMP, a JPEG, so JPEG will always be white background. Even if you had a transparent background, it will make it white. PNG will hold the transparent background and is better quality. You can say more information in than a JPEG. And then a Photoshop document, which is good if you want to transfer to another drawing program for some reason. So you choose which one of these, and then you click Save. So I'm not saving anything, so I'm doing Cancel. That's the only way you get documents out of Opencanvas. You can't, unfortunately, draw in CMYK mode. The colors are always RGB. So that's just something you have to accept. If you want for print and you want special export of special print files, then this is not the program for you. This is really for artists. So more you make a work of art and then you just make a JPEG, or you make a workable file, or you make a Photoshop document, you transfer it to Photoshop, and there you can export it in any way you want. But definitely the program is a little bit more practical for artists due to all those quick controls that you have, the ability to turn and everything. And really the brushes are sometimes also very nice, so it has good sides. Oh, and I almost forgot about one more very good thing, the reference window. So you have this separate window that you can place wherever it suits you and resize it to whatever size you want, so bigger, smaller. And here you can click this icon and choose from your computer whichever file interests you to have available at that moment. Open. And this one you can resize it, so you can take whatever size you want on the inside. You can turn it by this or by increments, and you can position it however you want. And when you're drawing, and you can also flip it here, and the beauty of it is you can sample colors directly from it. So if you want exactly the color of the eyes of the animal in the drawing, then that is the color you're going to have in your brush. Well, not exactly, because I want it to be the color of the eye, not the edge of the eye. So it looks a lot darker on a white background, but then if you put in all the different colors, you'll see that this is actually the colors of this little lynx with the blue in the background. So this is very useful, because normally otherwise in programs like Photoshop you have to open another file and just have it next to it and everything. This one is really good, and if you lock this or all the windows, then this one can't be moved around. So even if you draw around it, it's not gonna do anything. So that is a very, very good feature about Opencanvas.